Bueno, y las noticias universitarias de esta semana vamos a hacer foco en lo que pasó en la Universidad Nacional de Moreno, porque recibieron la visita del economista de la Universidad de Connecticut, Warren Mosler. Miren lo que pasó.
Para nosotros, desde la coordinación de la carrera de Economía, es un honor y es un hecho histórico contar con la presencia de Warren Mosler acá en Argentina en general y en particular en la Universidad Nacional de Moreno. Sin temor a exagerar, estamos con uno de los economistas más importantes de los últimos 20 o 30 años a nivel mundial, el padre fundador de lo que hoy se conoce como teoría monetaria moderna, o como me gusta llamarlo a mí, teoría del dinero moderna.
So I would define it as the study of monetary operations. Okay, it's understanding how the currency functions at the central bank level, brought down to its debits and credits, to understand what your policy options actually are. And for most people, it becomes very revealing where there's suddenly policy options that they didn't realize they had before. The major contributions of MMT are to what we call the history of thought of economics, to the School of Economics. I'd start with one that I call the sequence. Okay, so every member of parliament, every mainstream economist, most people have the understanding that the Argentine government must take in pesos through taxation to be able to spend. If it can't collect the pesos in tax, they don't have them to be spent. And if they want to spend more than they collect, they have to borrow to get more pesos to spend. So they see the sequence as there's pesos out there, and the government has to get them through taxing or borrowing to be able to spend them. Okay, and that is entirely wrong. And everyone in central bank monetary operations knows that's completely wrong. They've always known that. They know that the opposite is true. Okay, the pesos to pay taxes do not originate in the economy. They originate at the central bank. Okay, so all the pesos to pay taxes come from the government's agent, the central bank. Okay, and so that means the government has to spend first before there are pesos out there that can pay the tax. The government has to spend first before it can sell bonds, because the pesos to buy the bonds aren't yet out there. Okay, and so the driving force is not that the government needs your pesos to be able to spend, it's that we need the government's pesos to be able to pay our tax. So it turns it completely around, and that includes every mainstream model maybe that's ever been written. And it changes your perspective on what the dynamics of government policy are, what the limits to spending are, what are the risks, that type of thing. And so suddenly a lot of policies that no one thought were possible, such as full employment at all times, become just normal government operations. Okay. The second thing I want to add, which is that when you look at the actual debits and credits of the banking system, it becomes obvious that the authorities have the interest rate thing backwards. They think when you raise rates, you're fighting inflation. And when you lower rates, you're causing inflation. But close examination of the monetary operations shows that the opposite is true. That when you raise rates, you're causing more inflation. And when you lower rates, you're reducing inflation. And I've been saying this for 30 years now, pointing out the monetary operations. And nobody paid a lot of attention in the 1990s. But now Japan's had 30 years of zero interest rates with no inflation. The European Central Bank, the Federal Reserve, have all shown that zero interest rates do not create inflation. And in fact, what they say is their models are broken. So this is something we've said all along that's now coming into light, particularly in Argentina, where they're under an IMF directive to raise rates to the reported inflation rate. And every time they raise rates, the inflation goes higher. And so they raise rates more because the inflation went up. And so it goes higher again. So they raise them again and it goes higher again. It's like, reminds me of the hairdresser cutting your hair, the barber. And he's saying, no matter how much I cut off, it's still too short. Okay, so they've got it backwards. And that's an important focus of MMT at the moment. I look at it as a great honor to be invited to the university to present. It speaks to what they believe is my credibility on the subject, and I just get a very good feeling about that, and I'm very pleased to be here and doing it.
Todos los que vivimos en Moreno y en Argentina en general estamos condicionados, digamos, por las teorías que explícita o implícitamente adoptamos, y esta es una oportunidad para adoptar unos lentes, unos anteojos diferentes que nos permitan ver los problemas de una forma distinta.